There's a specific kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. You can take a day off, you can get 8 hours, you can even crush a workout, and yet you still don't feel finished. Not finished with work, not finished with decisions, not finished with conversations, not finished with who you're supposed to be. And if you're a high functioning man, this isn't burnout. It's something else. And today, I'm going to show you why you rarely feel finished and how to filter the mental weight that keeps you carrying more than you should. You see, psychologists call part of this the Zeigarnik effect, and that is unfinished tasks occupy more mental space than completed ones. So in layman's terms, your brain flags incomplete items as unresolved threats, not dramatic, crazy threats, cognitive ones. Things like that email you haven't responded to, the financial decision you keep postponing, the health goal you should take more seriously, the conversation you keep replaying in your head. Your brain doesn't categorize those as neutral. It keeps them active, open loops. And here's what most men don't realize. High functioning men don't necessarily have more responsibility. They just keep more loops open at once. Now, when you were younger, finished was pretty simple. You finished the assignment, you finished the workout, you finished the game. Adulthood doesn't work that way. You don't finish being a husband. You don't finish being a father. You don't finish building income. You don't finish managing your body. There is no clear done state. So your nervous system stays slightly activated, not panicked, just alert. And over time, that low-grade vigilance elevates cortisol. Sustained cortisol narrows thinking, increases reactivity, and reduces long-term clarity. So you become more urgent, but less precise. And high-functioning men don't want to be less precise. So let's go ahead and reframe this. The problem isn't that you have too much responsibility. The problem is you haven't filtered it. There's a difference between being responsible and being indiscriminate, between ownership and absorption, between caring and discerning. And this is where ownership and discernment begins. You're not dropping everything. You're not escaping pressure, not becoming passive, but filtering unfinished weight. So we're going to take this step by step. Step one, let's see the open loops. Most men don't struggle because they're weak. They struggle because they're vague. You can't filter what you haven't surfaced. So we're going to do a little exercise here. In a second, you're going to pause this video, maybe for 2 or 3 minutes. You're going to write down every open loop running in your head. No organization, no fixing, just inventory. Then you're going to scan these specific categories. What's happening personally, professionally, relationally, financially, physically, spiritually. You're not just writing down tasks. You're writing things down like expectations, lingering disappointments, unspoken resentments, conversations you're avoiding, the decisions you're delaying. When ambiguity becomes visible, your brain relaxes. Writing it down reduces cognitive load because your mind no longer has to keep rehearsing it. Visibility creates relief, but it's not enough. And this is where we get into step 2. Let's decide what's actually yours. This is where it gets uncomfortable. High-functioning men tend to over-own. You take responsibility for other adults' emotions, for outcomes you can influence but can't control, for how everyone interprets you, for things you inherited but never chose. Discernment means asking one clean question. Is this mine? Not, can I influence it? Would it help if I handled it? Am I capable of fixing it? But is this truly my responsibility? There's a foundational principle most men were never taught, and that is each man is given a field to steward, not the whole world. When you carry what isn't yours, you distort your field. And ironically, you weaken your ability to lead what actually is yours. And your field includes your decisions, your character, your effort, your boundaries, your leadership inside the relationships you've committed to. And let me tell you, it doesn't include other adults' emotional regulation, whether someone chooses to grow or not, how everyone interprets you, every possible outcome. But you know what? High functioning men blur that line because you're capable, because you actually care, because you don't want things to fall apart. So instead of stewarding your field, you start managing the weather. You try to control reactions, pre-solve conflicts that haven't happened, absorb tension that belongs to somebody else. Let me tell you, your nervous system doesn't know the difference. It just knows more load. And when you carry what isn't yours, your real responsibilities don't get sharper attention. They get diluted attention. You're mentally everywhere and emotionally nowhere at the same time. That's distortion. You think you're being strong, but you're leaking strength into areas that were never yours to own. And over time, that creates quiet resentment because you're exhausted and you don't feel allowed to drop anything. This is where discernment becomes maturity, not shrinking your field, not abandoning responsibility, but defining it cleanly. And once your field is defined, leadership becomes simpler, not easier, simpler. Which brings us to step 3. Step 3 is close, clarify, or consciously carry. Now, every open loop now falls into one of these 3 categories. We're going to either close it, we're going to clarify it, or we're going to consciously carry it. Now, what does each one of those mean? Let's break it down. Close it. That means if it can be finished, let's finish it. That oil change you've ignored, let's schedule it, done. Clarify it. If it's vague, define what done looks like. That tension you keep replaying in your head, what specifically needs to be said? What outcome are you actually aiming for? And consciously carry it. If it's ongoing, stop treating it like a problem to eliminate and start treating it like a role to steward. Fatherhood isn't a loop you close. It's a responsibility you carry intentionally. When you label things correctly, your brain stops treating everything like an emergency. And that shift from unconscious caring to conscious stewardship is where real relief begins. Not because life gets lighter, but because your load becomes accurate. Your accuracy is what high functioning men crave. And when you filter unfinished weight, something powerful happens. Your nervous system recalibrates. You stop scanning for every possible threat. You stop mentally rehearsing conversations that aren't yours. You stop confusing tension with strength. Your energy narrows. Your focus sharpens. Your edge becomes clean. Or in other words, precise. And here's the deeper layer. Many high-functioning men equate worth with caring. Thinking to themselves, if I'm not needed, who am I? If I'm not solving, what value do I bring? If I'm not holding it together, will it fall apart? So unfinished loops become proof of importance. You don't feel finished because feeling finished feels like irrelevance. But mature leadership isn't defined by how much you carry. It's defined by how well you discern. The strongest men I know aren't frantic. They're clear, they're steady, they know what's theirs, and they let the rest sit where it belongs. If you only carry what's actually yours, what would change? Would your shoulders drop? Would your tone soften at home? Would your sleep deepen? Would you feel finished enough for today? Not finished forever, but complete for the day? There's a difference, and most high-functioning men never give themselves that permission. And up until now, you've probably lived in funnel mode. Everything comes in, every need, every issue, every possibility, you absorb it all. But filtering is different. It requires pause. It requires courage. It requires choice. Because once you filter, you can't hide behind overwhelm anymore. You have to lead. Clarity reduces internal noise faster than productivity ever will. You don't need to do more. You need to carry it accurately. You may never feel finished the way you did as a teenager, but you can feel complete. Complete in your ownership, complete in your decisions, complete in your field. And high functioning men rarely feel finished because they confuse unfinished with unfiltered. The solution isn't escape. It's discernment. And when you learn to filter unfinished weight, you don't lose your edge, you refine it. And what remains is truly yours. If this hits close to home, not just intellectually, but personally, don't just think about it. Click the link below and book a free 30-minute clarity call, a focused conversation, which is where we'll look at your open loops, your field, and where you may be carrying what isn't yours. You leave with sharper ownership than you came in with, because sometimes you don't need more effort. You need clear responsibility. See you in the next one.